Ah, I'm encountering a mongoose, written and illustrated by Zach Z. Disclaimer. The bolded words in the book signify the important facts about the Indian mongoose's impact on petrels in Hawaii. 100% of the text in each image is also factual and important. 12 years ago. Honey, we're short on fish and squid, Dad said. I'll go out to sea and catch a couple more with Ted and Graham. I replied with a slight nod, for I couldn't risk cracking an egg under me. He crawled out of the burrow, took off, and flapped his wings into the rising sun. Not long after, I heard a rustle in the bushes. There it was again, only this time it was closer. I've had my fair share of surprises in my life, so I was fed up. Sorry, Mom's got to check something out, I murmured to the fragile, glistening shells under me. Or shell, sorry. I gently lifted my tail and slowly peered out of the entrance. As I peered out, all I could see was the large boulders surrounding me, each crevice filled with neighboring families. At first, nothing seemed abnormal. The sun was shining, with the trees swaying slightly. No rocks seemed to be out of place either. But then I heard it again, in the shrubbery. A chill went down my spine. Could it really be one of them? Uneasy, I made my way to the Petrellians, close friends of ours. Nora, something isn't right, I exclaimed. Be out in a sec, she replied. Then out of the corner of my eye, a long, brown creature sprung out of the bushes and ran towards my burrow. Help! There's a mongoose in my home, I yelled, but nobody came outside. Understandable, as there was a mongoose nearby. I sprinted and flew at the same time, nearly somersaulting on the rocks. As I lifted my head, the mongoose emerged, holding a single egg in its mouth. And with a flash, it disappeared. Current day. Honey, get to school, Mom proclaimed. In a hurry, I grabbed my lunch and notebook and set off with my friends. Hey, Parker, nice of you to show up, Yolanda murmured. I rolled my eyes and greeted the rest. Once you arrived, Mr. Copps, or Corbin as he prefers, announced the topic of the week. The Indian mongoose, everyone, he exclaimed. Long ago in 1872, mongooses were imported for the use of exterminating rats and snakes, Corbin began. Unfortunately, the sugar crop farmers made a grave mistake, one almost impossible to undo. The class looked at one another. We were intrigued. Wow, that class was interesting, Yolanda said. We all nodded in agreement. It was interesting. On the way home, I became very paranoid and scared. Corbin mentioned that the mongooses can be very camouflaged in its surroundings. For all I know, it could pounce on me at any moment, I thought. With every trembling step, I glanced around. With every sudden sound, my eyes darted side to side. With fear overpowering my mind, I waddled straight home. Mom, have you ever encountered a mongoose? I asked in bewilderment. At first she didn't reply. Then she slowly turned toward me and said, You had a sibling, Parker, she began. 1 year before you. I had laid another egg. But a mongoose took it and I lost him or her. I had always wondered where my siblings were. My friends all had 2 or 3 siblings, while I was an only chick. That's when I realized the ocean-sized tears welling on her face. I promise you, Mom, I will find the mongoose who did it, I exclaimed proudly. Hey everyone, I've gathered us here today to discuss an important matter, one we must accomplish, I announced to the trio. Fortunately, everyone else felt the same way. But Parker, what will we use as bait and as a trap? Conrado wondered aloud. Glad you asked, mate, I replied. I've already seeked out a few traps placed by the humans, so we can borrow them. We ain't got to worry about that bait then, but what do 'em like? Annalicia said. Her question had already been answered by the board. For the next few hours, my friends and I devised a plan, one so precise and specific, one that would allow us to obtain all the information needed. The sun may have been setting, but our smiles beamed through the darkness. We had successfully seen a mongoose, and we had also successfully taken data. We also gathered information about their past. Each of us brought our own notebook, so we would have to wait till home to share with one another. My mama says that we petrels became scarce once the mongooses arrived, Annalicia started. She said that we can take them graphs we drew to the humans and they can help us. We all nodded in agreement. We didn't have the resources to fight them, but the humans sure did. Conrado chimed in. My dad said that we become better though recently. He says that the humans have become more aware. These graphs show that too. Because the humans had given us their graphs, we felt like we owed it to them, so we decided to make a graph of our own, plus some extensions. The carrying capacity in this graph is shown to be at 3.4 log because this is when the population of petrels peaked with the presence of Indian mongooses. In the expected population graph of the petrel, the carrying capacity is shown to be at around 3.75. I predicted this number to be the carrying capacity because recently the knowledge of the detrimental effects of Indian mongooses to petrels in Hawaii has become more widespread. Therefore, more action is being taken to help them thrive in their state. For that reason, the petrel population grows. However, after time, the population will begin to increase at a slower rate, as the need to help them survive will be less essential. The growing awareness of the petrel's crisis will also mean the decrease of mongooses, hence their projected carrying capacity. Finally, once the population has already been aided by humans, it will stay at a constant rate unless new species invade, therefore showing that the carrying capacity will be met soon after 2029. Hey guys, Yolanda began. Corbin mentioned something about biodiversity and mongooses, but I wasn't sure. How has the Indian mongoose affected the biodiversity in our ecosystems? And Alicia and I weren't too sure. Luckily, Conrado was present. Essentially, before the invasion, our ecosystem was considered normal. However, once they became present, they disrupted our food chain and caused many species to unnaturally decrease, which created a chain reaction causing other species to suffer as well. Conrado then gestured toward the board, where he drew out an artistic and concise model. As seen in the model above, it depicts 3 situations: before the invasion, during the invasion, and the predictions. Using this model, you can infer that as time passes with the inhabitants of mongooses, ecosystems and petrel populations become more in danger. How did you find the growth of the decrease rates, Parker? Yolanda asked. It's simple, I replied eagerly. Here, I'll show you. So, we can use that to find our rates. Converting the log numbers to population via estimation, we can say that from 1990 to 2000, the actual time of the invasion, the petrel population rate was negative 84% and mongoose population rates up 800%. We also decided that a concise writing of our findings would be fitting too. To the Hawaiians fighting the mongooses, how do you do? Yolanda, Conrado, Alicia, and I, Parker, have decided to take it upon ourselves to provide you with additional findings of our short yet fascinating exhibition. The Indian mongoose was introduced to the islands of Hawaii in 1872 for the purpose of exterminating rats and snakes in the sugar crops. However, farmers in the industry made a grave mistake. They instantly became a problem. They began invading homes as well as other habitats, which ultimately led to calamity. From every habitat, we noticed that mongooses thrived in all of them. Therefore, we can infer that they feed on any food provided and can also survive in any habitat. Not only that, but they are also sly, dexterous, and intelligent. An example to this is their ability to swim oceans and climb trees. This can be deemed detrimental to various habitats because mongooses can disrupt the already fluid system of which that ecosystem abides by. This goes to show how gargantuan the impact of Indian mongooses had and still have on habitats around Hawaii. With over 8,000 of them loose around the island and no one to prevent it, it is almost inevitable that ecosystems will lead to calamity. This leads to our proposition. We believe that raising money to build enclosures for us can help us stabilize our populations. Without the harm of mongooses, it is without a doubt that we can prevail. Hey, thanks a bunch, the Hawaiian people said to us. We felt proud. Contributing to such a concern like this crisis really did make us feel better about ourselves. We had just created graphs that could help the future generations combat mongooses. We all began our trek home, sharing short anecdotes about the past few insightful and fascinating days. Days we would never forget. Here are my citations. Thank you for listening.